Welcome to WPPS News today. It's Thursday, January 14th, and I'm Sydney. Please stand for the pledge.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight is PPS night at CC's Pizza. Go eat at CC's, and some of the money goes to our school. Please be respectful and responsible by picking up any trash around in the lunchroom when you get up to leave. Even if it's not yours, keep the lunchroom clean. Now let's go to the urgent news desk for some urgent news.
Next Monday, January 18th, is the Martin Luther King holiday. There will be no school. We will present some Martin Luther King facts during the news show this week. Let's go outside and check today's PPS playground weather.
Searching for weather systems. Pointing at a radar. Standing in the rain. Looking at a thermometer. PPS playground weather. We're 50% right 100% of the time.
Today is going to be a beautiful day on a PPS playground. The high will reach 60 degrees with a 0% chance of rain. It will be mainly sunny with a very light wind from the southeast. Have an awesome time and stay safe on the playground today, friends.
Thanks for the weather update. Now let's see what great food will be served today in the Dragon Paradise Cafe.
Today in the PPS Paradise Cafe, you can choose between a deli sandwich on fish-shaped bread or some chicken tenders. You can also have mashed potatoes, green beans, tossed salad, or a whole grain roll. One bite from the PPS Cafe, you will be sent to paradise.
Now let's go to Ms. Harville's art room and see some of the beautiful art during our moment of quiet reflection.
The character word for this week is accountability. It means being responsible for your decisions and actions.
Thanks for watching WPPS News today. I hope you have a terrific Thursday. Remember to be safe, be respectful, and be responsible. Bye.
A picture book of Martin Luther King Jr. by David A. Adler, illustrated by Robert Casilla. Martin Luther King Jr. was one of America's great leaders. He was a powerful speaker, and he spoke out against laws which kept black people out of many schools and jobs. He led protests and marches demanding fair laws for all people. Martin Luther King Jr. was born on January 15, 1929, in Atlanta, Georgia. Martin's father was a pastor. His mother had been a teacher. Martin had an older sister, Willie Christine, and a younger brother, Alfred Daniel. Young Martin liked to play baseball, football, and basketball. He liked to ride his bicycle and to sing. He often sang in his father's church. Young Martin played in his backyard with his friends. One day, he was told that two of his friends would no longer play with him because they were white and he was black. Martin cried. He didn't understand why the color of his skin should matter to anyone. Martin's mother told him that many years ago, black people were brought in chains to America and sold as slaves. She told him that long before Martin was born, the slaves had been set free. However, there were still some people who did not treat black people fairly. In Atlanta, where Martin lived, and elsewhere in the United States, there were white-only signs. Black people were not allowed in some parks, pools, hotels, restaurants, and even schools. Martin learned to read at home before he was old enough to start school. All through his childhood, he read books about black leaders. Martin was a good student. He finished high school 2 years early and was just 15 when he entered Morehouse College in Atlanta. At college, Martin decided to become a minister. After Martin was graduated from Morehouse, he studied for a doctorate at Boston University. While he was there, he met Coretta Scott. She was studying music. They fell in love and married. In 1954, Martin Luther King Jr. began his first job as a pastor in Montgomery, Alabama. The next year, Rosa Parks, a black woman, was arrested in Montgomery. She had been sitting just behind the white-only section on a bus. When all the seats in that section were taken, the driver told her to get up so a white man could have her seat. Rosa Parks refused. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. led a protest. Blacks throughout the city refused to ride the buses. Dr. King said, "There comes a time when people get tired of being kicked about." One night, while Dr. King was at a meeting, someone threw a bomb into his house. Martin's followers were angry. They wanted to fight. Martin told them to go home peacefully. "We must love our white brothers," he said. "We must meet hate with love." The bus protest lasted almost a year. When it ended, there were no more white-only sections on buses. Dr. King decided to move back to Atlanta in 1960. There, he continued to lead peaceful protests against white-only waiting rooms, lunch counters, and restrooms. He led many marches for freedom. In 1963, Dr. King led the biggest march of all, the March on Washington. More than 200,000 black and white people followed him. "I have a dream," he said in his speech. "I have a dream that my 4 children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character." In 1964, Dr. King was awarded one of the greatest honors any person can win, the Nobel Peace Prize. The country was changing. New laws were passed. Blacks could go to the same schools as whites. They could go to the same stores, restaurants, and hotels. White-only signs were against the law. Dr. King told his followers to protest peacefully, but there were some riots and some violence. Then, in April 1968, Dr. King went to Memphis, Tennessee. He planned to march so black and white garbage workers would get the same pay for the same work. On April 4th in Memphis, Dr. King stood outside his motel room. Another man, James Earl Ray, was hiding nearby. He pointed a rifle at Dr. King. He fired the gun. An hour later, Dr. King was dead. Martin Luther King Jr. dreamed of a world free of hate, prejudice, and violence. Carved on the stone which marks his grave are the words, "I'm free at last." Dr. King was a personal hero of mine. He was a towering figure who stood for what was right in the world. He won the Nobel Peace Prize because he led a nonviolent movement for social change, which ultimately resulted in overturning the laws which allowed for discrimination. In the 1980s, I worked with many others to help create the national holiday honoring his birth we celebrate each January. So now that you've heard his story, Martin Luther King Jr. Day can be more than just a day off from school. On King Day, remind yourself that you can make a difference in this world by treating others the way you yourself would want to be treated. Make that dream your reality today. I'll see you next time.
I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today